everybody. Welcome to Design Wednesday. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Mary Warmby. I'm head of the Design Transformation Team here at BBVA, and we, with our larger team of the design team, we host these monthly events. And we have a really exceptional event for you tonight that hits pretty close for me personally and for BBVA. So before we introduce Desi, we're here tonight to talk about designing for disaster. And it's a strange topic, and a lot of people kind of go, well, what does that mean, and why are you even thinking that way? So I want to ask you, what would a bank, a global bank like BBVA, be doing, thinking about designing for disaster? What is design for disaster? Anyone?
Helping people.
Helping people. Why BBVA? Why would we be doing this? Who here works for BBVA? Okay, less than half. Everybody else is working for a company, though, more or less. And so let me tell you. So I met Desi almost 4 years ago now, and worked with her team, field innovation team, prior to moving to Spain and coming to work at BBVA. And we handled a few different disaster types together. And then 2 months ago, a whole string of really strange and terrible events started hitting. And it started with Hurricane Harvey that hit Texas and the Gulf Coast. And so I was with Ancho in Bogota, and we said, well, we should call Desi and call Field Innovation Team and see what we can do. And we had just assembled a team, a small team, and then Hurricane Irma hit Florida. And we said, okay, well, we better expand the team and think about Florida too. And then Hurricane Maria came sweeping through and hit Puerto Rico. And in the middle of all that, 2 horrendous earthquakes hit Mexico. And these places are all within the BBVA footprint. And so when you think about what is a company like BBVA doing, designing for disaster, for us, it's a multi-layered thing. I mean, our customers have been affected, thousands and tens of thousands of them. Our own employees. With Hurricane Harvey, we had over 200 employees displaced, homeless, that went into shelters. Same thing happened in Mexico. And right now, the fires raging in Northern California have had the same effect. And so what we have done, BBVA has partnered with Field Innovation Team, and we're doing a project with them that we're tentatively calling a Smart Shelter Kit. And what we're trying to do is provide a guide for communities to create shelters very quickly on their own without the assistance of government, because often government isn't there soon enough. So we have a team, a small team here in Madrid, several people in Birmingham, in Houston, in Dallas, in San Francisco, in Mexico City. I think, is that everybody? So this has become a partnership, and it's open to everybody. So if at the end of this evening you guys are interested in this topic and you'd like to help out, tonight we're going to be talking about the fires in northern Spain. But what we're looking at here is coming up with a model that is country agnostic and disaster agnostic, that we could place in China or anywhere, and they could pick it up if it were translated and be able to use it. And the same thing, it doesn't matter if it's an earthquake, a hurricane, a tsunami, wildfires, that it will be applicable to people. So come and see me or Ancho. Ancho, will you stand up, please? Everybody probably already knows him, but so let us know if you'd like to participate, because this will be an ongoing thing. And with that, I would like to introduce Rob Brown, who is head of design, marketing, and responsible business here at BBVA.
Thanks, Mary. If you are a regular of the design events, Design Wednesdays, then welcome back. If you're new, you picked the right night. This is near and dear to us, as Mary said, given a lot of our footprint has been affected by disasters. And so it's something that we have to focus on from an employee standpoint, from our customer standpoint, but also we have big hearts here. Most of you probably don't know me, but I spent years working for Barclays before I came here in the US and in London. And during my entire time at Barclays, 10 years, I volunteered to support young children who were in really rough neighborhoods or going to schools where they didn't have books, they didn't have anything. Some of the students that we worked with didn't have parents, both were either in jail or had passed away. And so just personally, it's something I'm focused on in my job. It's a day-to-day job of digitizing and building the digital bank of the future. But in my heart of hearts, there are things that I care a lot about, and one of those is helping people. So without taking too much more of your time, I want to introduce Desi. I just met Desi as well, and we've had about a 10-minute conversation that was one of the most interesting conversations I've had in months, so thank you for that. Desi comes from a really amazing background. Desi, prior to running FIT, Desi was the former Chief Innovation Officer for FEMA, the first Chief Innovation Officer for FEMA. She was on the front lines of the Boston bombings. She's been on the front lines of many catastrophes across the globe. And if there's anybody that can help us with our task of tonight, it's Desi. So thank you so much for coming to join us. And apologies for all the English. Yo hablo un poquito en español, pero Desi es mostly English. ¿Sí?
Mostly,
un poquito
yes.
español es posible?
Un poquito.
Sí, bueno, gracias.
Thank you, Rob. Bienvenidos. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Designing in disasters. Has anybody done any kind of designing in their own personal disasters? Okay, good. We got one. Well, we're going to go through. This is going to be very quick, right? Because we just have design night tonight to do some work, but it's important work. So some of the vision of what Rob, Mary, Derek, Ancho, the team, Sonia, have been catalyzing with FIT is how we can be survivor-centric. Now, it's important that we are, in our businesses, customer-centric, right? We think about the customer. We think about the people that we know. We do the same thing at FIT. The field innovation team works very hard to make sure that we're survivor-centric. And that means solving with survivors and responders to make sure we have solutions that really fit. So with that, I don't know if I have a clicker. Do I have a clicker? Oh, okay. Well, no problem. No problem. Okay. Well, this is just a small part of the team. We run a boot camp semi-annually in Utah in the mountains. And the reason I show this slide is we don't take ourselves very seriously, but we take our work incredibly serious. So tonight, have fun. We're going to talk about disaster, and it's going to be very serious, but you don't have to take yourself serious, but your task at hand is serious. Very important. Our mission is to empower humans to create cutting-edge disaster solutions. And in the middle here is my son, Logan. He attends boot camp every 6 months, and actually at the boot camp, tonight's a really short and fast and furious process. He actually created a supercapacitor at the age of 13, won a scholarship to college, which a mother would be very proud to know that their son is doing this, but he was only 13, and so we had to give up the scholarship to college, and hopefully he'll reinvent at a future boot camp another really wonderful thing that he can get a full ride for college, because that would be any parent's dream. Agenda today, we're going to go through the 3-step prep. Many of you actually know the 369 process, which is run through BBVA. Incredible process. This is a very short, quick, and dirty version of that. So when we're in an emergency, we have to convince the incident command to let us do whatever we've designed. And we typically have 30 seconds to a minute to convince that commander to allow us to do this. I'm sure you in meetings and in business opportunities, you have, oh, wonderful, we got the clicker. Thank you, Ancho. You have to convince your boss sometimes to take on new initiatives and do things, and they're usually very, very busy and there's a lot going on. Imagine now you're in a disaster, right? And you've got somebody who's coordinating the whole emergency response, and they're gonna give you about 30 seconds, gracias, to be able to convince them of that. So today, when we're working on our designs, you'll see our process. We'll go through each step one at a time, 3 steps, all together in small groups. At the end of it, a few of you will share your designs with the group, and Mary, Rob, and a few others are going to be the incident command. So you have to convince them that they should implement it. Oh, I don't need to do that. Okay, this is Tribeca Film Festival. This is one of the do tanks we ran. So interestingly enough, in New York City, there's a film festival, and people don't really know where it came from, but there's about 2 degrees of separation in every event or anything that you do that I could probably connect to a disaster. So I'm going to connect this one for you. Tribeca was actually born after 9/11. So when the Twin Towers went down, there was a co-founders, Craig and his wife, who created this festival. Craig's a mentor of mine, and they did it to bring the economy back up for the actors in the Tribeca neighborhood. And so this is Con Edison, private sector partner, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the New York City Emergency Management. And they are coming up with solutions to a solar flare that's taken New York City off the grid. Who's familiar with a solar flare? Okay, so sometimes the sun spins off these major, they sputter off these little flares, and it goes 93 million miles to Earth. Every once in a while, it strikes our power grid and it takes us off power. So the last really big one, yeah, I just got this look like, oh, it does happen. And so they're very concerned, especially in New York City, high dense area, Madrid's the same way, to think about the fact that you could have a potential power outage and how that would work. So they were solving for that in real time. And the last really, really big one, there's been many, but is 1989 Quebec. In Montreal, or not Montreal, but Quebec, the province, actually lost power for 6 to 8 hours because of a solar flare, and 6 million people were without power. So it's a real thing. Yeah, but they designed solutions in Tribeca to help prepare for that disaster. This is just a thank you, a big thank you to BBVA. They've been huge on the forefront of thinking about design in really interesting ways, and they've been pushing innovation in all kinds of markets. One area that seems to be a pretty open space is disasters. So Mary, Rob, and Derek, with their vision to build out something with private sector, public sector, and nonprofits, that's going to be very influential, because when disasters strike, just as you're thinking about your customer, we have to think about our survivors. And so this is a great way for us to get things out and prototyped and doing some R&D. The photo that you're seeing up here is actually some work we did with some designers in Lebanon. We were working on an artificial intelligent chatbot, which I'll cover in just a minute. I wanted to do a plug for the idea kit. So we're not doing the idea kit tonight. This is the fast and furious version of the 3-step prep. But Mary handed me this beautiful articulate kit. It's all on one page. It's front and back. If you have great ideas, if you're working, there's a couple startups here at BBVA that are working with the Open Innovation Lab. This is a fabulous kit. In fact, at some point I want to see if Mary could teach some of our folks to use this kit as well. So even though this isn't exactly what we're using tonight, the 369 process is really, really good. All right, so this may look familiar to Mary because Mary was a part of this. We're going to talk about our design process. We use a 3-step process. I'm going to tell it to you now. I'm going to say it a second time, and we're going to go through it a third time together, very fast and furious. But the first step for us is the what. What are we solving for? Disasters, there's a whole lot you can solve for. Second step is the who and the why. The who's the most important thing, right? It's really, really important that we understand the who. And I'll explain everything in just a minute. And then the third step is the how. Come up with a lot of solutions, and we dial into one. So why we use 3 steps? Anybody have any idea why we keep it to 3 steps in disasters? Any thoughts? We got to be fast, right? We also have to try to stay on the same page. There's only 3 steps. And one of the other reasons, and this was a couple years ago with Mary, we had been brainstorming together with a couple of other innovators, and we couldn't remember past 3. We just couldn't. So it was easy, fast, quick, everyone can stay on the same page. So I want to give you a little confidence on why you can design tonight for the wildfires in northern Spain and Portugal. We've designed in hurricanes. So this quick example is the work we did in 2012. If you remember Hurricane Sandy, it hit the eastern seaboard on October 29th. It was a Category 2, so it wasn't a huge hurricane, but it hit a highly dense population, and it happened to be high tide. So what was happening, if you were down in Manhattan, everything was by candlelight. If you were down by the 9/11 memorial, everything was filled with surge and water. If you were actually out on the coast, some of the areas in the boardwalks had burned up and had left. So there was a lot going on in Hurricane Sandy, and so FEMA, which is our coordinating body in the United States, it's the Federal Emergency Management Agency, they said, we need to design a survivor-centric system. We have 50 disaster recovery centers open, which are it's the center where they provide aid and support for hurricane survivors or any disaster survivor in the United States. And so the designers got to working. They went into the recovery centers. They looked at the processes. They started to think about how they could make it easier for the survivor and ultimately expedite them through the assistance so that they could go on with their lives and not be stuck in the center. So this is a picture actually of the graphic, but there's a whole book that lays out a disaster recovery center, and it's all community based. So the community is there from when the disaster strikes, and they're there long after the disaster leaves. So the idea is to be in the community, it's to be empowering the community, and for the other groups and governments to come plug in when necessary. So if anybody wants to see the actual booklet, I'm happy to share, but it was our friends at Frog who helped support this mission, and we ended up expediting the assistance along with providing a lot of aid really, really quickly. And this is because of designers like you. Designing in Nepal earthquakes. Do you guys remember the Nepal earthquakes? There was a 7.3, a 7.8, and a lot of aftershocks. I actually got caught in an aftershock. And to me, it should just be called an earthquake, because if they're over a 5 and you're feeling it like we were, the system was just rolling the land. But in Nepal, we had challenges with public health. There was really big issues with people getting sick and not knowing how the sanitation practices. So designers started to think about how to create a better system for health. The other thing they were thinking about is we saw an uptick in human trafficking. So people, young children, were being trafficked over the Indian-Nepal border and put into circuses and all kinds of other kind of situations. So we had to design a system where people were being educated on the public health side, but we also had to design a system where we were thinking about how to stop this human trafficking. So this is a picture of one of our designers, and she came up with some games that ended up, the games were so much fun, they were really simple games to play, that they proliferated the valley. And we do know from some of the statistics that it helped with some of the health pieces. There was a couple of diseases that were moving from tactile touch, and we started to see that stop as the games were played throughout the valley, the Kathmandu Valley. The second thing we did is we had a human trafficking group, and they partnered with a group called Circus Kathmandu, and they put on these performances that supported, again, awareness of human trafficking. The other interesting part is they got to know the circus performers who had been former trafficked children. They were adults now. And so working with the school systems, the designers were able to place these performers in the schools and design awareness campaigns. And we actually saw a lower tick in the trafficking after those performances were done. So speeding right along, anybody familiar with what's going on and continues to go on with the Syrian refugee crisis, right? That's a global challenge. So we went to Lebanon. We had to choose between Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey. We definitely looked at Greece, but again, our designers said, where is the problem, where is the challenge the biggest? The challenge is where the numbers are, and the numbers don't lie. In Lebanon alone, they had 1.2 million refugees recorded, accounted for, out of 4 million people. So that's 25% of the population of Lebanon is Syrian. They were crossing over the borders. So our team went into some of the camps in the Bekaa Valley. So to give you a sense of Lebanon, you've got the Mediterranean, you've got Israel on one side, and you've got most of it bordered by Syria. A lot of fighting on the borders. We were in the central coast called the Bekaa Valley, which has 6,000 years of winemaking. So if at some point when things settle down and you like wine, that is a really amazing region. Unfortunately, we were not tasting wine, but we were in the camps, and the designers, again, had to get to work. So we had virtual reality equipment, 360 cameras. We also had this artificial intelligent chatbot. So the designers had to figure out, what are we going to use these systems for? And the first thing they did was they realized that the virtual reality, the 360, could be used to help make fire escapes and fire evacuation in the tented community. So they designed quadrants in the different camps for thousands of people, and they created virtual reality camera footage that's 360 that allowed the people in the camps to actually take a look at where they were and visually see where they needed to go out. So as people came to the camp, and as the showish, which is the leader of the camp, placed them in there, he would then give them and transfer and download a video that they would watch on their phone to know how to evacuate in case of a fire. Now, what was important about this is they had a fire a year before. So Ali and Mustafa, who were running one of the camps, said, this is really important. We lost a child in the fire, so how do we solve this so we don't lose lives again? The second challenge we had was, that's okay. The second challenge we had was an artificial intelligent chatbot. So you know AI, we use AI in different little capacities. Siri has a little bit of AI, but some of our designers and our coders said, how can we repurpose this chatbot for the Syrian refugee crisis? Again, designers came to the rescue. They said, well, let's find out what the biggest need is. And one of the biggest needs was psychosocial services. But they were very clear that they did not want people to know that they were using therapists, psychologists, anything like that, because if a family finds out that somebody is using therapy, it's a complete shame to the family. It's absolutely, they could get thrown out of the family, sometimes they get beaten, so they didn't want people to know. So the designer said, okay, let's take the AI chatbot and program it in Arabic, the Damascus style of Arabic, and have them just text as if they're texting a friend. So these people had been through major war, major civil war. They've experienced bombings, shootings, lots of really, really scary things. And now they have a way to have an anonymous chatbot that they can talk to. The other cool thing that the designers said is if anybody wants to use an actual person with the chatbot, we'll have it programmed that they can actually go and talk to a therapist, a licensed psychologist, whomever they wanted to talk to. So let's do a show of hands. How many people believe that people did the switch over to a real person after talking to the chatbot? Yeah, I could see it. And just a show of hands to know, how many people think they just stayed with the chatbot even though they had the option of being with a human? Well, the latter group's correct. We didn't have anybody actually change over from the robot. Even though they knew they were with a robot, they chose to stay with this AI. So it's just interesting, even though the resource was there, they didn't access it. So this is all designing in disasters. So I have to go quick because I know my timekeeper is going to be telling me soon that I just have 2 minutes. But mudslides. There was a big mudslide in Washington State in 2014. And again, designers came to the rescue. So what you're looking at right now is my team's out with responders and the incident command. Actually, one of our designers is actually talking to the incident commander in the field because we're convincing him of a project and how we can help support. Just to give you a sense of this mudslide, it was an unincorporated town just outside of Oso, Washington, on the Pacific Northwest of the United States. And the mudslide took, it had, the victims were about 43, 44 people out of a town of maybe 100. So almost half the people in this unincorporated town had unfortunately passed. The mudslide itself, you could see from space, it was huge. It was absolutely a big disaster, and they didn't have a lot of situational awareness. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of what we did with the prep, which you'll do in just a minute, how we solved this challenge. First step, This is before, when we're in disasters, sometimes we just take a piece of paper and we take lines and we put it into 3 sections. So it's super easy and quick for everybody. But the first step, the what, is figuring out what disaster we're solving for. We solved for the mudslide in general. It was huge. So that was our what. But there were a lot of other whats that we could have picked. You can also see that we visualized it. Another important thing is not everybody speaks the same language. Not everybody has a lot of time. So being able to visualize it and put it not just in writing but in a drawing allows people to go quickly through the process with you and then get that incident commander to approve it. The second step is the challenge statement. It's the who and the why. And I'm going to go through a different challenge statement because I want to talk about responders with you. That's one of the personas that you may be solving for. So our who was the responders in the incident command. But our why was we needed to find a way to give them better situational awareness because they were putting their search and rescue teams out in this mudslide. So that was our statement, really quick. And what you'll have on your paper, on your big, giant design document, is to fill in the blanks. One of the blanks is already filled out for you because you're going to have a persona to solve for. But but why you solve for this is going to be up to you and your team. And then the final step is we come up with a lot of solutions. And in one of the solutions we came up with, people thought it was absolutely ludicrous, but it actually led us to the solution that, that some of our brilliant team members came up with. There were a lot of trampolines in the area. So a lot of the families had these big, giant trampolines in their backyards. So for the areas outside the mudslide, my idea was to recruit all the trampolines and have the responders leapfrog across the mudslide to displace their weight. Yeah, I'm getting a look like, ooh, there's a liability issue with that. I'm also a lawyer, so I'm fully aware of the fact that there can be some liability with that. But it spawned some interesting conversation because said, okay, if we want to leapfrog responders across this giant mudslide that we can't even see end to end, maybe we can do that with robotics. So we did. We took a drone and we flew it 7 times around the mudslide to gather as much imagery as we could. We partnered that with high resolution imagery that the state had. And then our designers took it and started putting together a 3D scan of the mudslide. And so what you're looking at right here is one of our quick renditions. I'm going to show you a really nice image in a moment of the actual design layout. But they are looking at what the mudslide looks like, and they're starting to place their teams, depending on the time of day, on the topography and keeping them away from fragile infrastructure. This was the 3D scan that we did. So what you're seeing is basically half of a large hill came down. And in the red area is actually what we call the moonscape, which was completely flattened. But what they did with this is, or the designers did with this, is they took the scan and then they 3D printed it on a 500 Biojet, which at the time was a very large 3D printer. This is back in 2014. Now they're even bigger than the 500 Biojets. And that 3D print became a place to place the search and rescue teams. And they started to realize where they had to keep people out and where they could put people. It was also a big recovery effort used to help hydrologists and mitigation experts think about how to place people. So ultimately, I'm telling you these stories because designers have been at the crux of everything we do at the Field Innovation Team. And it's so important that we incorporate them. As Mary talks about this customer-centric piece, we have to be survivor-centric, and designers really do that very, very well. So we're going to be quick because we got to talk about the steps. Step 1 is the what. So on your sheet, not quite yet, you're going to have this big space in the front with your team of 5 or 6. I'll let Sonia organize everybody on that end. And we're not going to do that yet because I'm going to go through a few things. I'm going to show you a quick video. But you're going to fill this out. I'm hoping that you'll visualize it. It's really helpful. And if there's somebody who's uncomfortable with drawing, you don't have to, but it really does help get that creative piece going. We're going to read an executive summary on the disaster, which is truly happening right now in northern Spain. You're probably very familiar and intimately because of the news with the fires. We're going to talk about those wildfires, talk about the Smart Sheltering Kit project as well. So we'll fill that out. And we're going to show a quick video. After the video, I'm going to do some instructions one more time, make sure we're all on the same page. But the team at BBVA thought it was really important that you got a hands-on experience. Since we're not in northern Spain right now. We're in Madrid. It's good to get an experience of what it's like in the wildfires. So we'll have 2 minutes just to observe what they've been experiencing. Oh, right here. Okay. Ah.
Hijos de puta, macho.
Mira aquí, izquierda, izquierda. Mira ahí abajo. Dios mío.
Aquí arriba también. Dale, 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 dale rápido, no vaya a ser.
Dios, Dios.
Joder.
Dios mío, Yago. Joder. Joder, Yago. Estamos por el fuego. Dios, esto es horrible.
No, no, no.
Yago. Yago, que no. Esto es horrible.
Joder.
Dios.
Para que veáis que no era puta coña, ¿eh? Estoy cagado de cojones.
Isto hoxe vai todo. Isto nin casa, nin coche, nin quedamos nós, nin queda nada. Cago en Dios! Cago na Virgen! Non queda nada. Nin nós, nin casa, nin coche, nin nada. Isto hoxe aquí non queda nada. Cuidado, Rafa! Cuidado aí no butano!
All right, so you're getting a sense of, you may have, in fact, does anybody have family or grew up in the parts that are, yeah, we have a few folks. So you know the terrain, and certainly you are the expert, right? So the scenario that we have in place for you, obviously use your judgment. If it differs at all, please, because we were a virtual research team that put it together. Wildfires are insane. In fact, just to give you a perspective on how incredibly scary they can be, last year McMurray in Canada, Alberta, Canada, we were there with the incident command. The fire was so enormous and so the magnitude was so large that it produced its own lightning. So we had teammates who were in certain areas that were considered safe, and I was getting calls from the Emergency Operations Center saying, there's no storm in the area, but we're seeing lightning. And we were able to talk to the meteorologist and figure out that the fire was so big, it was creating its own lightning. It's pretty incredible. So let's do a quick. So again, the what, this is going to be all in your guide. But you can look at a lot of things. You can look at the wildfire as a whole. You can look at it specifically at the community degradation, the social ties, housing resources, based on the scenario that we have in front of you. You may find some other what that you want to focus on, and that's fine too. There's really no wrong way to go with this. It's just to get us to the what. We are also, due to Mary's really good insight, going to add the second step together. So you're going to do the what, and you're going to do the second step. Sonia, could you hand me one of those big sheets? Yeah, so I can give a visual. So in just a minute before I cut you loose, you're going to read your executive summary, which everybody has. You're going to break up, we're going to actually have you guys break up into groups and then read your summary. You're going to read that summary. It's like 3 short paragraphs, a couple of bullet points. And then as a team, in 5 or 6 people, you're going to fill out this first blank, right? Then the second part that you're going to handle is the who and the why. Your who, Sonia will be handing it out, is a certain persona. It's either going to be a responder, it's going to be a crisis relief worker, or it's going to be a survivor in the wildfires. So the who, the actual person, you'll just fill in their name. But the part that you as a team will have to decide is the why. So there'll be 3 blanks that you'll fill out. And the reason, again, that we keep it so short in this quick sentence, along with keeping the steps really short as well, is because it's easy to follow for your incident commander. Because at the end of the day, when we're presenting it to the incident command, you're going to present each of these steps, and you're going to get them to okay it, and it's going to be very, very lean. So that, I think, takes us, yeah. Is there any questions about this process, the first step and the second step? You're designers, so this is totally not, this is not unusual for you. So on that note, we're going to have you break up into, would you say, groups of 5 or 6? We'll have you group up in 5 or 6. You'll just have to turn your chairs around and gather around and read that scenario. We'll hand these out. So our incident command, like I said, some of them have had international cross flights. They're working hard, these wildfires. They've been helping survivors all day. This is the end of the day. Some of them, their wives are saying and their children are saying, you've got to come home. So we are going to have just a few groups present to the incident command. It's a panel led by Derek, Rob, Mary, Ancho, and Sonia. And we would love some volunteers. We're only going to have 3 groups go. I know there's a billion great ideas. And certainly if you want to talk afterwards, we'll be at the reception and we would love to hear everybody's. But I would love to invite the incident command up to the front of the room. And you have just a quick minute. It's like an elevator pitch to convince them that your idea and your prototype needs to be out in the wildfires in northern Spain. So do we have a volunteer group that would like to? Ooh, all right. You're second. If you don't mind standing up, if it's possible, so the rest of the room can see you. All right, everybody. Oh, do you need a mic? You got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our what is we're talking about the fire and the social ties and community. So what people can do throughout situation like this. So there's a centralized platform that all the official organs, institutions will provide information. This will be the official information without having to be verified. This information will trigger needs throughout the area. So they are localized, so people can volunteer. So they know that in their neighborhood that they need to rescue dogs or to help in something. They can go and see what is needed. So if 3 people with cars are needed, you can check in. Oh, I'll be one of those people. So they just need 2 more. So also this information is an official information. Everything is verified because we know about fake news and all the viral bad information that goes. Everything is verified, also by volunteers, but also by professionals. And this information goes to all types of channels like the radio and digital media, so people know the official news and what is needed to help.
It's wonderful.
1 minute.
Yeah. Thank you. One quick instruction. You guys did an incredible job, and the incident command is going to give you some thoughts. When our next group, just make sure you go through each step so we know the persona that you're solving for. Who were you solving for?
It's called Ancho.
Yeah, Ancho.
Ancho.
And Ancho was who?
Is a paramedic. So he's a professional. He's in distress because also his family is in trouble. So he's having trouble with communication and how to direct the right help for the right spot.
Muy importante. What do we think, Incident Command?
So did you call this a platform, or what did you call it?
In better word is a platform because it's centralized, but yeah.
So how does the user get the platform? How do they get access to it?
They listen to the radio. We have some screenshots here. It's our MVP.
It's an app. So they download an app.
Yeah, app, but also different channels. Also in the radio, some people cannot access for many reasons an app, but also the radio. So different channels to spread the news and the needs.
Okay, in a disaster like this, if they don't have access to an app store and data networks aren't working, what's I just challenge on what's an alternate solution?
Yeah, we know. That's why we use traditional channels, radio, and usually it's word of mouth and people help. But we wanted to avoid as much as possible all those type of bad news and wrong news. And so if we have like a place where people could go and grab the right or curated information, would be very useful, and then the information will go. So we're gonna try to spread this in different channels. Of course, internet has to be one of them, but also we thought about radio, because they're like radios, they're just active, or stations just throughout those difficult moments. So we wanted to have this safe place to go and grab information, and also the help needed.
Great.
Well, Instant Command, what do you think about something that could be a technological solution, but also a platform that could be in the Smart Shelter Kit, physically planted and mapped, and people could then find information there? What do you think of that? Is that something you would want in the wildfires?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, all right.
And I think the more open the platform is, so that it's it can be contributed, not control. Not it's a balance between verifying real versus fake, but then also having that open platform, so it's connected via APIs and can scale with open information, because you never know where the most valuable information is going to come from.
Congratulations.
I want to add one thing. When you think about the different channels, don't forget the physical space, the real world, and visual markers that can show people where to go, where not to go, what type of resources you need. And I think about the fires that hit Portugal earlier this year, where so many people were trapped on the roads. Mm-hmm. And if there had been just like a simple tool that you could attach to a telephone pole or a light pole or a tree that could be switched on or off, then people would know, go turn around and go back the other way. Because a lot of people in that case just drove right into the fires and were trapped. So things like think physical. I mean, I know we're all in the digital space, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that's out there analog that we can pick up and we can combine with digital and be really, really powerful.
Cool. I think in the interest of time, can we go to the next one?
Absolutely.
I do have some questions. Great work though, for what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yeah, super quick. Congratulations, guys. We'll save applause until the end. Let's go to group 2. That looks like a drone, but I'm not sure.
Hi. We take the point of view of when you are in a disaster, any kind of disaster, the first thing to go broken is the connection, the radio connection, internet, media. So we came with the idea to dispatch drones with a Wi-Fi connection all over the zone to cover all the area. So everybody can get connected with an app. We also because we think that the network is more to provide the communication is the most important in this moment. So the first, so we came with this idea. I don't know.
No, it's very good. It's very good. And comms is a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love it. I could envision myself walking around with that following me everywhere. That's very cool. And it's smart. I think using drones for anything, as you pointed out in some of the work you did with the mudslides, drones provide such an amazing aerial view. We think of photography and video with drones, but to connect Wi-Fi to it, Wi-Fi is really, really cool. Love it. Awesome.
Would you have any audio component to the drone?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Of course, we thought about that. Because what you could do is take our startup that we're working with, Dove, and you could have a sonic communication blasted to all phones that doesn't require an app. And by simply distributing a sound, it wakes up the device and communicates the emergency information directly to any device without an app.
That would be valuable.
But it sounds like we might be able to combine the platform with the Wi-Fi and a little bit of Dove, and now we need the third one to close us off.
You guys were working very hard at the prototyping table. Yes.
Thank you very much. So the issue yes, yeah. So the issue here is how to rescue Sonia, who is totally alone at home. She has 5 pets, and no one knows where she is. So basically, we invented an application. We did the first draw, and it's an app to geolocalize the people that they need to be rescued. And as well, the same app, it led to put the number of pets that you need to be rescued as well. So the shelters are going to know where everyone is. And with using artificial intelligence, the application can know where the people are located, so it can planify the best route with shelters to rescue everyone in the houses. So basically, the red point is Sonia, and the yellow one is the shelter, and in the midpoint we have the meeting point where she's going to be rescued in accordance with these algorithms in the application. This is the way.
That isn't at all influenced by your time in Mexico during the earthquake, is it?
Yes.
Aha. Great focus on the user, in, or what do you call it? The survivor.
Yeah.
The survivor, and how you help how you've built a human-centered approach around one specific user or survivor to help them move from danger into safety. So I think that's brilliant, and I think the combination of all 3 of them could be pretty powerful.
Agreed, great.
3 great ideas. It makes you want to see all the other 3, or the other 4 or 5 teams.
Who wants to go next? Ooh. Oh, yes. I want to hear about this. You guys are up on the screen. By the way, feel free to do the hashtag design at BBVA, and then I'd love if you guys plug in at Fit Ready to Go so we can get these photos too, but please, this looks amazing.
Okay, our persona is Sonia as well. Sonia is an expat traveling in Galicia, and she's alone with her pets. So she has to figure out how to, well, she has experience in rescuing people, in rescue teams, so she has to figure out how she can survive, but also how she can help others. What we thought is that our work is focused on social ties and community, and with other expats in Galicia. And well, she's a British expat. She needs a way to find a shelter for her and for her pets as well, with other expats, and she's alone. So what we thought is we had different solutions, and we thought that a system that combines physical signage and also sort of an app could be a solution, because sometimes the communications are not up. So we need something that works in both environments. So we have here some signage where it's in different languages, saying refugio, shelter, free meeting point, fire meeting point, sorry, and also a QR. So everybody can scan the code and locate maybe a Facebook page where you can find information, links to maps or whatever that can help you in your way out. And that's it, no?
There was a part to it that there's a space in those shelters where, you have, for example, you have pets or small children. You can leave them there under surveillance of other volunteers, and then you can yourself go and help other people while your loved ones are taken care of.
That is brilliant. Yeah. What do you guys think, Incident Command?
I'd say again, great design around the user and the user story, and kudos for a brilliant prototype. It's makes it real. Did you think at all about how the shelters participate and how are shelters identified to connect the survivor and a shelter? Because many of these shelters aren't pre-designed shelters, right? Shelters just happen.
Well, we would have to set up a network of shelters. And in Galicia, there are some ways, for instance, El Camino de Santiago has a lot of shelters. And also there are sports centers and schools where can be used as shelters.
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I think it fits right in with the smart shelter concept that we're working on as well. So really good job.
I just have a question for everybody, and maybe you too, because
Ooh.
you have so much experience with this. But has anybody thought about the idea of a drone signaling the point of where a shelter might be? Have you used that in the past?
We haven't used that, but we did use, we actually didn't put it on drones and we didn't put it on aerostats, but there was two twin tornadoes that hit Pilgrim, Nebraska. This is super short. I'll keep it condensed. But basically, we wanted to put it on these big balloons, these big weather balloons, up in the air to be able to show where cell connectivity was and where different maps were. We got all the approvals, but then someone got scared at the top and said, what's an aerostat, which is just a weather balloon. So we thought of a different plan, and we ended up putting it on apps. And I have a lot of pilot friends who do flyovers and disasters, and so it passively acted on their phone as they flew over. So not drones, but pilots.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm just after watching the footage, which was gut-wrenching. It's hard to see anything, I would imagine, in some of these incredibly terrible catastrophes. And so, being able to see a giant balloon from a drone seems like something we should think about. Cool. Love it. Anybody else? Before we let Derek go home to sleep. He's flew in from Las Vegas, for those of you that hadn't heard, to join us. Yeah.
Hi, we have our persona is called Jordi, and the main problem here is he coordinates the shelter thing. He's trying to find the safest place for everyone, but they don't have enough resources and enough places to host them. Okay, and we try to optimize the processes here, try to create a market or a matchmaking idea to meet people that has some places available to host people in the area, but maybe they don't know each other, two people that doesn't have a place for the first days. That's the idea. It's called something like emergency bathroom, because you can say, I have a bed available this night or 2 nights or 1 week or whatever. And in the other side, because we are making a kind of market, we have someone that needs some place to stay those nights. But probably, maybe in your first circle, in your first area, your friends and family, you don't have anyone available that night. But maybe you have a friend in common, or maybe you have a friend in common that they have a friend in common. That's the idea here, is try to optimize the social distance between them, because it's more natural to host someone that you know, or maybe someone that has a friend in common, something like that. And the idea is try to order them with that distance in the graph, in the social graph. And also this fits very well with in the popular social network, because we have the data of where are you living. Also, we have the data of the distance. And also, we reduce to the minimum the steps that you need to offer your house, and the steps that you need to offer to find a place to stay. It's try to optimize the community-driven places, is like the idea, instead of the bigger communities or hotels or something like that. That's the idea. This is fire. Okay.
I love the name. I love that you've already come up with a name and a brand. Emergency button. I think it's very cool. I didn't quite get, though, if I push on the app the emergency button, what immediately happens? What's the first thing that happens? What do I see?
Depends. Yes, if you are asking for a place, we have to wait a little bit time. I'm not sure why, but in the order of minutes. And we try to find as fast as we can, as quick as we can, some place that maybe is near to your house, and also you have a friend in common, something like that. We try to optimize that in only a few minutes. That's the idea. It's wait for your house, because in 5 minutes you have someone to bring you to your new home for 1 week. That's the idea.
Very cool. What's happening behind us?
The AI is signaling to us that we're wrapping up soon, but we do want to get through a few more incident commanders.
Awesome. I
It's a
love the
smart
distributed model there, because I think the centralized model it's good in some cases, but the things that we're seeing these days, it's not up to the task anymore, and we need to think of new models. Do we have time for one more, or are we at the end? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm sorry we can't hear everybody's, but we wanna capture all of these ideas, please, because we are involved in this real life project with FIT. So if you guys don't mind leaving your canvas and your prototype, it would be really appreciated. We're going to be having a co-creation workshop in the next month or two. And we'll bring all of this stuff, and we'll look at your ideas and see how they mesh with the research and see what we can do. Put your names on your canvases too. Put your team names, and we'll follow up.
Cool. I would love to let, because Derek has traveled all the way from Las Vegas to be at this. Derek, do you want to say a few parting words, or do you just want to say, just a quick closure, if you want? Sure. Yeah. I'm putting him on the spot.
I think I would say, first off, it's great that you all have come together to experience this, that we're applying a design approach to solving real life problems and challenges that extend into society and beyond banking, because the role of banks and our role as an organization is to help shape the fabric of society, and the role that money plays in that can play not just in banking and traditional banking products, but how we actually help communities. And so we look at not only how we can help, but also how we can learn, and learning from experiences like this. And I once learned very early on that sometimes the greatest innovations come out of designing for extremes. And there's not anything more extreme than survival, and the solutions that can come out of, and the innovations that can come out of extreme circumstances or out of necessities can be truly life-changing for people. So while this has been, I'm sure, a fun and exciting exercise to stretch your brains, hopefully you've gotten some personal development out of it. But know that it also is a very tangible and real initiative that we as a company are seeking to help communities through Mary, through the FIT team, and through all of your participation. So nothing more than to say thank you.